Hi friends, I'm Abby and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be wrapping up everything that I read and did in the month of November. November just passed in a blur, it's over, it's happened, and we are now moving into December and the final month of the year. So we're just gonna look back on what I've managed to read and achieve in this last month, and it's not a lot. I think I have now thoroughly scuppered myself for my reading goal, but quality over quantity. So in the month of November, I will do the stats, I will do what I got up to, and then we'll just dive into my full thoughts. I read 4 books. I finished 4. But they were long, they were chunky, and those 4 books came to 2,555 pages. They were not short books, they were significant in page length. 3 of the books were fantasy and 1 was a historical mystery. 3 of the books were adult, 1 was new adult. And then in terms of star ratings, quality here, I have 2 5 stars, 1 4.5 star and 1 3.5 star. The quality was high, the quality was there. The quality was there, the page count was there, the quantity was not there. And of these, I continued in 3 series. I didn't finish any, I didn't start any, I just did the continuation thing. And that keeps my on the go at 29, which means that coming to December, I've got to be strong on those finales. There's that. In terms of what I got up to, November was a relatively, I'd say it was busy. Like I think my weekends were relatively busy with different things on with friends or family. That I hosted my family for a roast one weekend. I had like a friend staying, we went to Yalk together. It was really fun, very bookish, bought a lot of books, didn't read a lot of books that weekend. I went to the Q Christmas lights, winter lights thing that they have at Q. Would recommend if you're in London and if you can think about buying the ticket 6 months in advance, like we did. We've been planning to go for years, literal years, and every time you think about it, you're like, oh, I should do that. And you think about it in November, but by that point, all the tickets were sold out 6 months ago. So, and I did go to the French Alps on a work trip. It was very snowy. Very, very snowy, especially on the drive up. It did not stop snowing for 3 days. Like solid snow from Monday to Wednesday. We woke up on Thursday morning, I was like, finally there's some blue sky, because it was so snowy. The drive up on the Monday was traumatic. I had to call my colleague and be like, come save me because I'm stuck, help. I need you. Anyway, there was that. So I didn't end the month of November very strongly because I did not read anything through the final like 5 days of the month until I got to this weekend. Maybe there would have been a 5th book if I had been working just in my home at this week, but I didn't read anything, so here we are. Anyway, that's enough rambling about my life in November. Let's get into the books. So the first book I did start in October, so I think I read maybe half of it in October and then half in November, but it is the longest and biggest book here and all the pages are in November, and that is Alchemized by Sen-Lin Yu, which is a standalone fantasy with a strong romantic plot within it. I've seen a lot of debate about this being classed as fantasy romance, and honestly I'm like, the bulk of the book is romantic in nature. Just because it's a dark world does not mean that you can call it a dark fantasy. It's a dark fantasy romance. There we go. That's my 2 cents on it. Anyway, because if you market this as a dark fantasy and then you go into it and the majority of the plot is based around the love story between 2 people, then you've lied to people. This is following the end of a war between good and evil, or alchemists and necromancers, and the dark powers, the necromancers, have won, and we are following main character Helena, who has been imprisoned since the end of the war in a state of stasis, and she's coming out of this, and they realise that she is missing memories from the end of her time in the war, and the leaders of the dark powers believe that these memories could be crucial to the resistance and critical to them staying in power, because they want to know what she is trying to hide, and they place her in the hands of the High Reeve, which is one of the, I don't know, controlling, ruling powers of this dark empire. So yeah, we're then following her and this High Reeve as they get to know each other, but knowing that there is a lot more history that we discover through the book. So a large chunk of the book is in a flashback through into the past when this war is waging between the alchemists and the necromancers, and seeing everything unfold there and what led to the end of this war. It really dives into like the brutality of war and the trauma that this puts people through, whether you're on the front line or in the hospital. So Helen, our main character, was in the hospital, and so all she saw was the death and the injuries surrounding them. Whether they were winning or losing, all she saw was the death. Yeah, it is, I guess there are quite a few like harrowing moments through this, but I did really enjoy seeing that love story like progress, and yeah, seeing these two characters bond and the relationship that they formed on the backdrop of this quite harrowing world. I had read the fanfiction that this has been, you know, the original fanfiction earlier this year, so I did know the plot beats going into this, but it was really interesting to see the things that were changed and adapted, what Sen and Yu kept from the fanfiction and what they changed and altered and shifted around. I'd recommend this if you're interested in it. I don't think it will work for everyone because of the nature of the darkness of it, and it's not, I don't think it's the fastest paces, but I did find the writing quite compelling myself and I was hooked into reading it. I guess one critique is that I do think the world building might be a little bit clunky, that some of it is very like spoon-fed to you in quite large chunks, and that could have been a smoother ride. I think I went into it knowing roughly the plot beats of where this was all going, so it didn't matter if the magic system didn't all quite click for me. That wasn't very important for me, but maybe if this is your first time reading this, then that you might get slightly hung up on that potentially. Anyway, I recommend this. I really thoroughly enjoyed it, and did go to the Sen and Yu signing at Yalc and got a print signed. I continued in the Blood Witch series, I've continued in the Witchland series by Susan Dennard by rereading Blood Witch, which is the third book in the series, and this was my final one to reread before 4 and 5 are going to be completely new to me. I'm intending to wrap this series up this year, hopefully. I've been having a really good time rereading this. It's a lot of fun. It's a YA new adult series with a cast of characters. The main ones are Safi and Azult, who are best of friends, sisters, and they each have different magical powers, and yeah, there's lots of different powers within this world. The empires are coming to the end of a 20-year truce, and we're seeing that whole climax with Safi and Azult at the forefront of it. It gets revealed that Safi is a truth witch, which is a power that has not been seen in this world for a very long time, and she's able to tell truth from lie, which is highly coveted when all these empires are building to this tension, and will they go back into a state of war. But yeah, I really enjoyed the world building this. I enjoy our different cast of characters and what everyone's going through, the relationships that we see, the lore that gets built in terms of like the history of the world. I think it's already well done, and the general pacing and where this is going. Very excited to see how this all wraps up. I think I then needed something a little bit shorter, a little bit easier, one that I was just going to be able to fly through, and I read A Grave Robbery by Deanna Rayborn, which is the 9th book in the Veronica Speedwell series. This was a series that I predominantly read last year, so I read the first 8 books. I just had this one to get my teeth into that I had remaining for this year. I think book 10 is coming out early next year, but that will be in hardback. This is a series of historical mysteries set in the early 1900s, 1889, end of the 1800s, and we're following main character Veronica, who is a lepidoporist, and her paramour Stoker, and each one is sort of like an individual mystery case that they are investigating, whether it's a murder or disappearance, as they try and unearth what is going on. Each of them sort of stand alone, but there is an overarching plot that covers the whole series. I find these really fun, enjoyable. They're just, yeah, very easy to read, and it's very interesting to see the development in the relationships as we go through it, both mostly between Veronica and Stoker, and how their dynamic changes over the course of the series. And once again, everything I've enjoyed, so I would highly recommend this if you're after something that's just very like easy and fun to intersperse between longer, darker reads. I then went back to a chunky book. Like, that was my one little foray into a 300 whatever page book. I then was like, let's go chunky again. And I read The Strength of the Few by James Islington, not too sure which one he goes by. This is the sequel to The Will of the Many, which I read at the very beginning of this year and thoroughly enjoyed. And I thoroughly enjoyed this sequel. I had a lot of fun with this. I'm very happy it's good, like, stood up to the first book for me. 5 stars, like thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, maybe you classify it like 4.75, like I can see a couple of issues, but I had so much fun. I had so much fun with this. So the first book, you're following main character Viz, who is an orphan, and he gets adopted at the beginning of the book, and his new father wants him to infiltrate this school to investigate what is going on there. There's lots of political rivalries between the 3 different factions within the world. So yeah, he wants Viz to go in there, see what's going on, as he can't himself, and his brother has died at that school. But yeah, he has a couple of reasons why he really wants Viz to go in there and investigate what's going on. It is a Roman inspired world and very hierarchical. So the magic is that everyone sees their will up, and so if you're at the bottom of society, you are just seeding your will, which is draining your like life force. But the more will that you have and the higher up you are, the more power you have, and you're able to use that will to do some magical acts. I really enjoyed like the characters and the relationships, the school setting in that first book, as we like learn more about the world, about Viz, about his character, the relationships that he builds, and it was just like, there was just so much going on. There was so much going on, and yeah, the way the magic system worked, the hierarchy and that political system. Continued to really enjoy it in this one. We sort of see some different landscapes and locations within this, and get sort of some different perspectives, which I really enjoyed, and really enjoyed seeing the world from different angles, and the way that everything is developing in this quite sort of scientific, fantastical world. That it is definitely a fantasy, but you can sort of see science behind it, and the way that there's scientific elements and there's historical elements with the influences. There were some really strong scenes in this that I really enjoyed reading, and I continue to root for Viz and where this is all going. Like, can't wait for book 3, but I think it might be a little while away. I'd say my only sort of weakness is that there are quite a few side characters, and I think some of them could have had a little bit more development. That I don't know if I was attached to all of the side characters that we see in this. That I think the scale of this book, it's quite like a big task, and I think James Islington did a really good job of like meeting that task, getting there and fulfilling like the objective that he was setting out to do. But yeah, I do feel like there's a lot of characters, and maybe they'll start blurring a bit. I think I might need to do a reread before I get into book 3. Yeah, potentially they could have been a little bit more fleshed out and differentiated. That Viz is so clear, he has such like a personality, but maybe the side characters are a little bit more just black and white. Also on this was very kindly sent to me by the publisher, which is Text Publishing, which is I think the Australian one. They seem to have done the UK editions instead of, is it Saga Press? Big shout out and thank you to Text Publishing for sending me both advanced copy on my Kindle and this physical book. I was a little bit behind reading it, but I did read it in the month of its release. Yeah, thanks so much to them. I can't believe when I got that email to say, would I want this? Of course I would want this. And book 3. And book 3 when you have it, please. Okay, I do have 2 books that I have on the go as of the end of the month. I have not finished them, but they will be finished in December, and I have made some very solid progress in these chunky-ish books. On audiobook, I am currently listening to The Nightshade God, which is the 3rd and final book in the Nightshade Crown series by Hannah Witten, the first book being The Foxglove King. I am 142 pages into this, so making some good progress. It is a 463-ish page book, so a good chunk, 300 pages to go, having a good time with it. I don't feel as though this has been my favourite series. I'm feeling a little bit disconnected from everything. That might be because I've gone for the audiobook route, that I'm not like completely hooked and enthralled by this. I am finding it intriguing and interesting. I am definitely interested to see how this is all going to wrap up and exploring the topic of the gods that we're getting, but I don't think it's going to be a new favourite, unfortunately. Although this was, yeah, again, this was kindly sent to me by Orbit, so thank you Orbit for sending me this, and I will let everybody know my full thoughts when I finish it. You'll see that in my December wrap up. And then finally, my physical read. I am making some very good progress in the Lady of Starfire, which is the 5th and final book in the Lady of Darkness series by Melissa K. Rorich. I am about halfway through, I think. 280 pages of 660 odd. So a little under halfway, but very solid progress here. I'm having a lot of fun with this one. I'm enjoying seeing where it's all going. I feel like we're building to a big crescendo and climax of this series, and seeing all the power players like get into position for, I'm guessing, the big battle that's going to be coming. Intrigued by the different like lore and the world still and everything that's been going on. Enjoying the relationship dynamics, more so with I think the side characters than with our main pairing, because they have been together for quite a while now, so it's more just seeing the other pairings and what's going on with them, and I'm like, oh, there's still tension in these ones. But yeah, overall having a really good time. Intrigued to see how it's all going to wrap up. Should be seeing my wrap up on this one very shortly, which means I am on my way to finishing two series in the next few days, hopefully. And then we can continue on and finish even more series, because I've got a few that are on my end of year radar. Anyway, that has taken long enough to talk about just 4 books. There we go, that is everything that I have read and got up to in the month of November. Let me know if you have read any of these and your thoughts on any of them. Let me know how your reading is going for the end of the year, and thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my future videos. Bye!